everyone. Welcome to A-LIGN and our brief web series, Technology-Enabled Compliance in Action. We have a few people here to speak with you today that I'll give just a moment to give brief introductions. First of all, myself, I'm Patrick Sullivan, VP of Customer Success at A-LIGN. I'll be moderating our dialogue today. And with me, I have Stephanie Oyler. Steph, would you care to say hello?
Absolutely. Hi, all. I am our Vice President of Attestation Services here at A-LIGN. I'm happy to be here today with you all.
We also have joining us Bianca Jefferson. Bianca?
Hello, I'm Bianca Zongrone Jefferson. I'm the VP of Product Design. I work closely with our product and design teams to build Ascend, our platform that we use here at A-LIGN.
The platform. And really quickly, before we launch into any of the content today, just a brief statement of purpose for our time. We recognize that the state of compliance today in particular can be very confusing. We really hope to take a little bit of time to educate you, to educate the market, to bring clarity to what can otherwise be a very confusing and honestly scary process for people that are just beginning to understand what their compliance obligations are and just beginning to make decisions about where they really need to go. Now, to that end, the things that we really hope that you consider, first and foremost, compliance in your environment, kind of an overplayed adage, but really is a journey. It is not a destination. And that said, as we think about the compliance journey, it becomes really important that we think in terms of compliance operations. This is not a one-time event, not a sprint, but a mindset that you need to bring to bear in your organization to ensure that you have ongoing operations to really provide the assurance that you need that not only can you withstand an assessment, but that your customers will feel confident allowing you to process, store, or transmit their sensitive information. Now, to that end, as we think about operations in general, we'll think of operations in terms really of three basic domains. There are people, there are processes, and there are technologies. When we think about the marketing that's really prevalent today, we'll see a hard focus on technology platforms, essentially presenting as if they do have a silver bullet, which, to be fair, there are a number of good platforms that can assist people to where they want to be. Again, for us to really provide a decent education, we feel it's important to take a step back and ensure that we do talk about your operations in terms of the full spectrum of your people, process, technology. Now, one of the things that you'll see in our diagram on screen, for those of you that are seeing the screen, as we think about how these various domains interrelate and work together, you'll see at the center of the diagram, we really have specificity. We really have focus around you and the tailoring that must be done to ensure that any technology, that any processes, and any people that are working with you are really applying the compliance standard to which you're being tested against, to the unique things that make your environment their own. Now, Steph, Bianca, anything that you'd like to say about what we're currently discussing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we apply that methodology in-house as well. And I think that that's what is kind of different about A-LIGN. We take the subject matter experts in-house. Attestation. We gather our auditors up together. We gather our subject matter experts together, and then we sit across the table from people like Bianca, who are designing our technology. And we pull those two pieces together so we can have this full picture and really create a strong vortex between subject matter experts, between the processes that we can pick up and share with our technology friends on the Ascend side, and put those all together to deliver just a powerhouse of a product. And I think that that's kind of our differentiating factor. We apply what we preach. We practice what we preach.
In-house.
And I think that that's really something that sets us apart from a lot of other firms out in the market. We care a lot about that. We listen, cross-departmentally to one another. And I think that by doing so, we are able to design a product that works the most efficiently for our clients' goals as well.
And then, Steph, you bring up an important point here, but because we are kind of bringing a 360-degree view to how the product is designed. I almost think of the tool itself, the Ascend platform, as being a platform that's really built to be end-to-end, almost purpose-built for organizations to integrate with as their technology solution, to then work with us as a team, wherein we bring our people and processes to bear through the platform. So that, again, end-to-end, we provide a solution that allows our customers to create the outcomes they want, really while minimizing the risk to them and the cost, the overall cost from both a financial and a time perspective, to really create value for them and their organizations. Does that sound fair, or is that me being overly optimistic with how I see the tool set?
No, certainly. I think that a lot of the conversations that Bianca and the product team and I have are solutions-oriented conversations. What are we seeing out in the market? What are the compliance hurdles that we see our clients go through from various sizes, right? We are serving clients of many different business classifications, very different industries a lot of times. And where we see them struggle is a lot of times what we go to Bianca's team and talk about, solutions-oriented, technologies that allow people out in the market to really get what they need from their providers. They spend a lot of time with us. And I think it's our responsibility to a large degree to make sure that we are servicing them in a way that's very appropriate for them. So, Bianca, I know I spend a lot of time bringing different kind of off the wall ideas that are unique to us, to you. And I think it's fair to say that your team is very solutions oriented as well.
Yeah, we are out there finding the problems to then create those solutions, right? Understanding what are the pain points. Patrick, one of the things that you said early on that I loved is, like, compliance is a journey, right?
Absolutely, yes. No question.
Our in-house experts are committed to taking that compliance journey with the customers that we serve. And then on the flip side too, we practice what we preach internally. We want to understand what is the journey that our clients go through, our assessors. We want to make sure that we are building solutions, building value for the people that use our product holistically, right? It's not just one or the other. It's truly a holistic experience. And
as you're saying this idea of a holistic experience, it's dawning on me that, at least in my experience, and Steph, this is probably the same for you, I tend to run into one of three different types of service providers in the market. There are traditional assessor CPA firms that are really good about bringing people to bear, maybe processes to bear to do a test or certification work. There are the whole run of new platform providers, so technology providers that have put a lot of time and energy into building a platform, which may or may not be tailored appropriately for the scoping of an assessment. Nonetheless, there is some value there. But then I see really fewer and further in between the outliers, organizations like us, that integrate those two philosophies really under one hood, so that we do have a capability in-house to ensure that we understand what is necessary for an organization to be successful as they undergo their attest work. But then also we provide the tools that allows them to do those things that minimize the burden for them, their teams, and frankly for our teams as well. Now, that said, before we move ahead, just to clarify, as we think about the operations pyramid that we see on screen, you'll note that we've really tried to classify, to clarify, if you will, to label the three core processes that make up our pyramid as it relates to the subject matter experts or people, the truly innovative processes associated with how we deliver our assessments, and then the technology of the platforms themselves. And so next, we're going to talk just a little bit about the capabilities and the things to consider as we do engage with one of the different service providers that we mentioned before. Now, Bianca, if I could maybe take a moment to hand off to you to talk just a little bit about some of the pieces of the puzzle here, some of the pieces of the technology that we do deliver through the relationships that we build on Ascend.
Yeah. And this is exactly what I was talking about before, going out and problem finding and then problem solving, right? Like, all of these features that are in the blue section here, those are all things that we heard where we could do a better job to support our customers and get them further along in their compliance journey, no matter where their starting point is, right? People come to us at different stages, and we want to support them at the stage that they're in, meet them where they're at, and then help them graduate to the next level. So these features that we have here allow our customers, allow our clients to do that. So the first is a technology-enabled readiness assessment. We have a couple of different versions of this in that you can talk to an auditor to understand, okay, so what is really being asked here? Because some of the language is not always clear when it comes to, you know, what are you asking me for, right? What kind of stuff do you need, right? Like, I know how to spell the word database, but like, I probably have to get my engineer in order to understand this. Yeah, I know it starts with a D, ends with database. That's as far as I've got, right?
And it rhymes with metabase. It's
yeah,
crazy.
That's right. Yeah,
crazy how that works.
So we've given people a ticket of front row access to, you know, ask some questions, get some auditor assistance and understanding, like, hey, am I on the right track here? Like, is this how I interpret this? Or if you're like, you know what? It's not my first rodeo. I can go through this, and you want to just make sure that the audit that you are preparing for, that you are truly ready for, right? You can do that on your own. You don't need someone to handhold.
So we can test assumptions. We can clarify misunderstandings, all those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
Kind of outside the bounds of a traditional assessment. So practice before the game.
And it allows you to see where are my gaps? How critical are those gaps? And then figure out how to make a remediation plan so that when it does come time for your audit, you feel confident going into it, right? Like, an audit is a big thing for a lot of people. Yes. And that feeling of preparedness, that feeling of like, you know what, I got this in the bag. I feel really good about this. I've done the work that's necessary to show that, you know, I'm at a good spot on my compliance journey. That's really important for a lot of people.
I think one of the pieces to this particular feature of the Ascend platform is really cool, because this was a problem solution oriented piece that the service team brought to the Ascend team and said, yep, hey, we have clients that want to go at different speeds. Some want to go really, really fast.
Yes.
Some don't necessarily have the budget of time to allow them to go really fast. So how can we create a product that is go at your own pace? If our friends that are night owls want to complete an audit at 2:00 in the morning, how do I, as a service delivery professional and manager, how do I provide the resources to fill that gap for them? And of course, I'm a mom and I stay up in the middle of the night quite a bit, but I don't necessarily love to perform audits in the middle of the night. So as I was thinking through this, you know, we were sitting around a round table. I can recall the conversation happening in our Tampa headquarters office. We were sitting around a table and I thought, think about how many people file their taxes a year using software. They are not public accountants. They did not ever take a tax class. But they file their taxes, and they know by the end of their journey through that software what they need to do. They know how much they owe, how much they're going to receive. They know where they stand. Mm-hmm. What if we designed something that fit the bill for audit to be done in the same way, so that, you know, the last final day before the cutoff, you could go through and you could answer all of those questions and you could know exactly where you stand. Or if you're a planner and you want to work ahead, how do we provide that platform and those means to do that? And I think that is where that originating thought was. And it delivered. You know, Bianca's team definitely showed up with the solution of exactly what we were thinking. And I think it's so cool because not everyone runs on the same schedule. Not every organization runs to the same tempo. And that solution really allows everybody to go as they please and then to reach out and have help where they need it, instead of an auditor constantly saying, hey, you haven't provided me this. Hey, I need this. Hey, we need to meet again. you can have all of the meetings that you need, or you can have very few meetings, little to no meetings, really, ultimately, and get the same answers and outcomes so that you know how to proceed forward to really begin your compliance journey. When I think of it, that's like our jumping off point. It's just the beginning of the journey.
I think about confidence. Were I to design a tax prep program, I would have zero confidence, and I would hope that no one else would have any confidence that program would actually prepare them. But do you think that we can offer those that choose to use our platform more confidence because it was us that actually designed the readiness assessment?
100%. It was actually really fun to watch those pieces come together because we had a resource group that got together that was full of auditors, managers, senior managers, directors, VPs. We all got together and we nerded out, and we really put our best thoughts together on the ways that we would conduct an audit as if we were sitting across from a client in a room. And of course, a lot of those days are long behind us now, and it's a video call and occasionally a flight if we get lucky. But we thought through what that process would look like to simulate real life as closely as we possibly could. So it's the same questions we would start off by asking if we knew nothing about your organization. It's this exact same process.
Another one of the technological components that we hear a lot of talk about today are integrations, something, Bianca, I think we call automated evidence collection. Mm-hmm. And Steph, maybe I'll turn to you with this question, but kind of in your experience, your perspective, is there really any value to an unlimited number of integrations, or is there something more specific, more focused that we need to consider there?
Quality versus quantity. Love that question. Always. Yes. Yeah. I love that question. In the realm of audit, and especially SOC 2, it really is about quality, not so much quantity. And, I think understanding the bang for your buck. Are your HR platforms, can they be integrated? We sat around, Bianca and I were at dinner not too long ago talking about this, and I get really excited about the number of pieces of evidence that can be reduced by an HR platform being integrated. So it's not so much how many integrations you can have, are the right integrations for your organization available. And Bianca, I know that's been a huge focus of your team, ensuring that there's breadth of integrations. And maybe you'd like to speak a little bit to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. When we're talking about integrations, when we're talking about ways to collect evidence that kind of helps you out, right? Like, yeah, I know how to spell database, but I'm going to need somebody else who has more of a technical expertise than I do, whose time could be better spent doing revenue generating activities that I need for my business, right? We're focused on the biggest time savers. So depending on which integrations you have, depending on which systems you have that would integrate within our platform, you could save anywhere from 3 hours to 300 hours, depending on how many you have for your organization. If you have Gusto for your HRIS, great. We're going to connect to Gusto and get the information that we need about your people within that system. But if you go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt, Bianca.
No, please.
As you're laying this out, and I think about just the variety of integrations that can be connected into a system or into an audit. Earlier, Steph, I think you mentioned depth and breadth of our subject matter expertise. And one of the concepts that we really want the market to understand is that an audit, an assessment, is really intended to be around a focused scope of systems to be audited against or attested against or assessed, whatever the corresponding verbiage is there. My mind immediately goes to the question, is there a risk of bringing in too much information? Is there a risk of just having a ton of noise for both the auditee and the auditor? Is that a concern from your perspective?
Certainly, convolution, and it takes me back to zip files, emailed evidence, the the thumb drive that got securely delivered to the office with evidence of, unnamed files that needed to be sorted out. It was a very time-consuming audit at that point in time. And technology has changed that for us here at A-LIGN through Ascend. So most people know Ascend to be evidence collection and evidence collection only. One of the beautiful things about Ascend is that as you upload a requested evidence article, you're uploading it directly to a request that ties out to controls. And as an auditor, being on the other side of the fence, that creates efficiencies and hopefully reduces a lot of back and forth questions. It also provides in our platform a great space to communicate and manage the audit in one centralized location. So too much is definitely not a great thing. There is, everything is great in moderation, right? It's no different really than a piece of chocolate pie. We have to make sure that we are eating just the appropriate piece of pie for the scope of the audit, not the whole pie, because diabetes and different, health risks that we would have to that. It's really no different if you think of it in the concept of health. You want audit health to be reasonable because there is such thing as too much in the audit realm. And especially whenever we're talking about evidence at A-LIGN, I think we've done a really great job of focusing not just our readiness assessment tool and not just our integrations, but also our evidence request list to be very tailored to conduct the audit and conduct it efficiently and conduct it at a very high level of professionalism that gives our clients, customers, great assurance levels, great confidence levels, because a lot of times the SOC report specifically is used as a benchmarking tool. So if we don't have great service there and we don't have quality, that's a huge risk to any organization. So that's our primary focus is quality. And by cutting the fluff, if you will, we're very focused in on what do we need from our clients to gain assurance that their systems are designed and operating effectively. And that's exactly what we're doing. And that's exactly the conversations that we have with the product development team whenever we're sitting around the table deciding what do we collect and what don't we collect. So I kind of go back to that same stance that I had earlier of it's certainly quality over quantity. 100 friends that won't do you any good really aren't doing you much service. You want the friends that are the integrations that get you the most bang for your buck. Those are the integrations that really matter. And that you really need to, as you're going through the vetting process, to decide what provider you may go with. You certainly should be understanding not purely just a number or a statistic of the quality or the quantity of integrations that an organization can offer you. It really should be about if those are the right fit for your system and your services that you're providing out to your customers.
If you just said two things that absolutely resonated with me, right fit and quality. And it dawned on me as you were using the chocolate pie analogy. In so many ways, when organizations look to piecemeal together their assessments, it's like they're relying on separate providers to provide ingredients to the chocolate pie. Maybe a tech provider to provide the sugar, someone else to provide the cream, someone else to provide the flour. Whereas in an integrated solution, you just order the chocolate pie. There are controls in place to ensure there's consistent quality so that you really always get what you want. You always receive the value that you intended to receive from the relationship, which is just so risky when organizations try to do this on their own. So thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing clarity there. Yeah. Now, Bianca, another thing, another new tool set that we've rolled out that seems to have a lot of promise, at least in the conversations I'm having, is our policy center. I don't know if you'd care to talk just a little bit about the policy center, and then Steph, maybe if you have anything to add from a customer perspective, the value, the utility.
Yeah. So again, meeting people where they're at in their compliance journey. There are people who have never done a SOC 2 before, right? Like this is their first go around. They need it for the longevity and as a critical business need, right? Like they need that SOC 2 report to say, listen, I've got all my ducks in a row. a huge part of that is having the correct policies in place and enforced. But what if you've never written a policy before?
What do you do? Tell me.
Yeah. What do you do? It's a lot. I mean, that takes a lot of time. But what if there were already best practices and standards out there that allowed you to say, hey, I need this kind of policy. I'm going to start with this template. I'm going to start with an industry best practice for this kind of policy. We do that with Policy Center. And let's say, you know what? Again, this isn't your first rodeo, and you've done a SOC 2 several times, maybe not at this current organization, but at other organizations, you know how to write a policy, right? You can write one in your sleep. You can upload the policies that you do have and then attach them to the requests that we have for those specific policies.
Impressive.
So again, everything in the blue, we are focused on the biggest time savers, the greatest value, the best ways for you to feel confident, feel assured about going into this audit that historically has been considered really scary, probably messy. We package it up, put a nice little bow on top so that you can feel prepared going into this big event.
Bianca, I think you said something really important there. We are providing solutions that meet you where you are. When I think about the different pieces of the Ascend platform and all of the new features that our customers can now upgrade to, I think about the beginning, the middle, and the mature part of the journey, right? So as I think about Policy Center, I kind of pair that in my mind with the readiness assessment and going through the readiness assessment and thinking about where are my gaps? What do I need to do to move forward appropriately and to, achieve compliance? And I can't help but to pair that Policy Center with the readiness assessment tool. And I kind of group them together as siblings, if you will, because it just makes sense to be able to come out of one spot, know where you stand, and walk into the next door and say, okay, great. I know what I need to do. I've got the tools in front of me to do that. And then from the audit side, validating, that everything is matching up to the policy. Did the client take the best practice? Did they take what's realistically happening in their systems and their organization? And did they tailor all of those policies to be unique to them and matching what they're doing so that whenever we go through the real audit that's auditor driven, we can validate that as well. So I think it's a really cool feature. I think of it, at the beginning, but you had a really great point too. It doesn't end, once you've passed the beginning milestone of an audit. It really can carry on with you because of serving as a repository. So it's really cool feature that can travel the journey with you and not just be one of those beginning stepping stones.
Yeah. And then to that point too, continuous monitoring allows folks to continue that compliance journey year round, where we allow people to see what their systems are doing and if they're compliant by design. I think a very important part is to recognize that compliance is not automatic. It's not automated. It is intentional, and it deserves a certain amount of intentionality behind it. And that's, again, what we're doing with the features and meeting people where they're at on their compliance journey.
One of the coolest things that I think about continuous monitoring as well is that the audit team does not have access to that. So as an organization that is utilizing continuous monitoring, it's your safe space. Your auditors don't actually even have access to view that. So you have that safety net to go through and understand what's working, what's not. If something falls out of compliance, your audit team does not have visibility into that. So that's something that I think is really unique too. We talk a lot about that on client calls is, you're not cheating the system. No. Certainly not cheating the system because your audit team can't see it. I actually can't tell you a whole lot about continuous monitoring because I work on the audit side. And we draw that hard line in the sand. That line does not get crossed. So I think it's really cool and comforting, I'm sure, as a client to be able to receive that product feature. On the flip side, knowing that as friendly as your auditors may be, there's still some differentiating factors there that you want to keep segregated. Segregation of duties is a lovely thing if you ask an auditor. So no hard feelings there of being left out of the circle. We think it's a great product, and it's certainly something that we do answer questions on as far as can we see it or can we not?
Yeah. And then similarly with automated evidence collection, auditors can't just pull the information. That has to be a client saying, you know what, I've got all of my integration set up. I'm ready to do this. Push the button. Evidence is collected. This is not a pull where the auditor says, great, I'm going to grab all of this. It's someone saying, I'm going to release this to my audit team.
Yes, very intentionally driven by the client. Certainly not something that our auditors are going out and have the ability to pull, but I think the difference of clicking one button versus hunting down the files and finding the samples and going through that process, the click of a button, literally the click of a button, is how much easier that becomes.
What I continue to hear as you all are talking is that the client retains control, essentially, of the evidence that will be pulled, and through continuous monitoring, they have a way to really practically ensure that compliance is part of their operations, not the one-time event that we want to continue to educate people. We really need to steer clear of.
One thing, Patrick, I can say is that what the auditor does have control of is managing the audit right there in the technology. And I think that this is such a huge piece of the pie. In a lot of instances, whenever auditors are out collecting information and there's back and forth on that evidence that's being provided, it's emails, it's phone calls, it's
brutal,
timely tracking manually. And we talked about this earlier, but the Ascend platform, with the evidence that is auto collected, we can have dialogue right there in the app. We can toggle back and forth between requests that have been submitted, requests that have been accepted, and requests that go back and require action from the client with notes, with details of, we have questions on this. And of course, whenever there are large questions that are maybe possibly concerning, we are always setting up a call. I always tell my auditors, bad news does not age well. So if it's bad news, you need to be on the phone talking to the client and face to face so that you can fully understand the scope of what's happening. But for standard back and forth questions, comments, you can do that right there in the app. And I think that that's a beautiful thing because it just makes it so much more clean. And when you're managing, maybe 200 requests or more, even when many of those are auto collected, to have everything in one portal, you can see a lovely bar that's tracking across to see your completion. If you are type A, it is a dream come true. If you're an auditor, it's a dream come true. I joke, but it is really, really nice to be able to have that piece there, have that line of communication there. There's so many more features in the Ascend platform that we could spend so much time talking about. We'll probably do so the next time we get together. But that is, I think, where it all ties together for us is, you've got the technology piece, you've got the expertise. We've combined our brains together.
Yes.
We sit around the table and we talk about, hey, this is what we need from a content stance. And I can't design the technology piece. It's above my pay grade, but Bianca sure can. So she gets together with her team and we put those together. And then I think that's where you get this beautiful, teal color is in the process side and the innovation. We at A-LIGN, we strive to innovate constantly, and it's one of our core values. Really.
Yes.
And it's really important to us. It's how we feel that we can drive value to our customers in providing the right service at the right time in the right way. So I think it's just a matter of making sure that as you're vetting out a provider or you're vetting out technology, you're understanding all of the pieces that go into it and how the pieces integrate and connect together, almost like a puzzle, from the technology into the audit and how those two pieces plug in together.
And Steph, to say something more about the integration, I think one of the areas that most people forget as we engage with our customer base is that we're really forming a partnership. We're setting out as an assessor firm to partner with an organization to help them along their journey. And there are certain constraints that we have, but ultimately we're looking to create this future together. And so the integration of people, I think, is something that gets lost in a lot of the conversations that we have with customers chasing integrations or chasing technologies. And that, for me, is really why this in-app communication and audit management, why those features are so critically important. I mean, the number one question I get when we kick off engagements is, when will I be done? And so, the real driver is who does what by when. How quickly can we be through this process?
You made a really good point. The integrations alone, no matter how many integrations there are, they cannot carry you the entire way.
Yes.
There is gray matter. There is gray matter in an audit, and we cannot program to that. So the audit team is still a very functioning, high functioning, important piece of the puzzle. And we can automate to a degree. We can auto collect to a degree, and it's a beautiful thing. We are driving efficiencies where efficiencies make sense.
Where it makes sense. Yes.
Where they make sense, because I think that's really the important piece of the puzzle here, is understanding what does need gray matter applied to further understand the uniqueness. Because, as we go through different phases of life, I think it's always interesting. I've recently come across a journey where someone said, okay, when this scenario happens, what do you do? And I said, well, sometimes I do this, and then sometimes I do that. And they said, no. The answer has to always be the same. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel handcuffed. Like, I felt suffocated to some degree on that. And what I realized was, like, this is audit. In certain circumstances, one decision may make sense. And in other circumstances, it may not. And if we handcuffed our clients to only automation and only auto evidence collection, we would really be limiting the full picture and the breadth of the audit and the quality of the audit, because it would eliminate choice. And we talk a lot about SOC 2 and how customizable it is, because it's different than a lot of other assessments and audits that you can go through. It does become unique to the organization. So it's really, really important that it gets tailored to an organization. And we can't do that with 100% automation. So it goes back to quality versus quantity. What are the right integrations and what are the right ways to create efficiencies that give us the most bang for our buck, and then give us the flexibility where we need it?
And then, Steph, I think tailoring, it presupposes that appropriate subject matter experts are involved in the decision-making process, that appropriate scoping is done, that appropriate processes, innovative processes are in place to allow for that scoping, for that tailoring, to ensure that the process for everyone, customer, auditors, is as efficient as it can possibly be. The technology itself becomes a piece of that, but it is absolutely not the base of the pyramid. I don't think it could ever be.
Yeah, it's efficiency and then also effectiveness, right? Like, how accurate and complete is my information, right? Like, when we are gathering that automated evidence collection, we're taking the pieces that we know that we need. Like, you are giving us access to the stuff that we need to feel confident as assessors to say, this is complete, this is accurate.
Outstanding. Well, ladies, I think we are at a place that we can say thank you to everyone for spending their time with us today. We do plan to release a second part of this series in the very near future. So for those of you that have enjoyed this time, thank you. Should you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. And we look forward to continuing the dialogue very soon. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.